同事現在會議係繼續。
Members, let's resume. Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, President. GBA development is an important strategy for the country. The objective is to deepen the cooperation between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area cities. The framework was promulgated 3 years to the date. The policy address talks about integration into the national development. I think we should attach more importance to this. We should have a commissioner for GBA development. It's just like the commissioner of sport. The commissioner is to be reported to SCMA. This means that insufficient importance has been attached to this post and to the development of GPA. I think the steering of GPA development should not be handled just by one policy bureau. GPA development is a big portfolio, much bigger than the portfolio of any one policy. Every policy bureau must have someone who is responsible for GPA-related development. And the commissioner for GPA should be reported to the CS4A. There should be cross-bureau collaboration to implement these important policies. If we are to have a deputy CS4A, then we should consider the enhancement role of the commissioner and different bureaus. The GBA development would involve one country, two systems, and three custom territories. Is important. And the presidency has given us very important instructions to ensure the free flow of essential products and people within the GBA. I've received a reply from the CMAB saying that a lot of things have been done. Those are important things, and I'm grateful. But we need to look at how much more should be done to dovetail the development with Macau. For example, FSTB, CEDB, and LWB should be thinking of ways to be working in tandem. There should be performance indicators so that we can make the best use of this national development policy for GPA. President, I think the new turn of government should do more in this regard. So I submit. Mr. Tan Ka-pil. Thank you, President. The theme for this particular session is Hong Kong's integration into the national development. I would like to make a suggestion, and that is that Hong Kong should seize the opportunity presented by RCEP, 10 Asian countries plus China, Japan, Korea, and New Zealand. The total trade involved will be 1/3 of the global total, and it's equally 1/3 in terms of global population percentage. We have to maintain Hong Kong as an international city. Make the best use of the one country, two systems. Hong Kong should be a connection point and for the RCEP transactions. Other mainland cities cannot join the RCEP. However developed they may be, but Hong Kong can. ASEAN countries will see our sincerity if we join RCEP. We need a clear policy to promote it. And that is, I would like to see East Kowloon join joined with ASEAN program. I represent East Kowloon. Many people and businesses and entrepreneurs in East Kowloon are saying that they have been forgotten because we want to develop the Northeast NT. Why do we want to take advantage of our SAP and try to join East Kowloon with our SAP? Or the business hub in East Kowloon is just next in importance to the Central District and the Queen and MOT. It's difficult for East Kowloon to be officially linked to Asian countries, but we can give the development in East Kowloon a thematic policy. We have the cruise terminal, and the cruise industry is an important feature of industry for Asian countries. So I have this East Kowloon joining hands with ASEAN countries, which will involve an exchange and translation center in dealing with ASEAN countries, because ASEAN countries cover a lot of ethnic groups and languages. So that for Hong Kong businessmen and GBA, the enterprises would use East Kowloon for legal support, counseling, and clearance. And it should also act as an investment advisory center and digital renminbi market. I just want Hong Kong to mention that I would like to mention that Hong Kong and Thailand have been cooperating closely in businesses, and there are many outlets, many businesses in East Kowloon. So we should turn East Kowloon into a connection point with ASEAN countries instead of a cheaper version of the Central District. We should discard such a notion which is not very valuable. Of course, East Kowloon would also be the location for mega sport events. And we have overseas Chinese associations. In the mainland, Nanning is the connection point with ASEAN countries. So that East Kowloon can cover ASEAN connections to promote regional development. So I hope the government can consider this suggestion of linking up East Kowloon with ASEAN countries. Dr. Wong Yunshan, President, one of the focuses in the policy address is housing supply. But it seems that the government is avoiding the real problems, and we are seeing a dwindling supply of public housing to meet the increasing demand. I would like to talk about the tendency to avoid the problems, to resolve the shortage of PRH supply. According to HA, there would have been 8 updates in the past 5 years. In the latest update, 11 projects, or 21% of the total, to 20,100 units would be involved, would be delayed in completion. The information is so opaque. Members will have to dig out all the information from past papers and make comparisons. And we don't know why there were delays. The THB should explain why each and every project has been delayed, and there should be regular reporting over delays. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The government is only willing to publish 5-year projected figures. Although the HA said the land for 330,000 units has been identified, but we don't know the actual progress of construction. And we have been seeing delays in all the 5-year forecasts. And I believe the delay for the next 5 years will be even more serious. The HA should publish all the information in a one-stop thematic website, so that electrical, the CE, and other people interested in the topic would be able to monitor how and make sure the 330,000 PRH units will be completed in good time. Although 330,000 is still insufficient, if delays have to do with various departments. For example, there was one project involving the removal of an AFCD, the animal center, and the project was delayed, and it has been turned into a transitional housing project. All members, myself included, would be willing to offer all assistance in this council to make sure that we meet the production target for PRH. I hope every project managers overseeing the projects would be able to monitor the projects properly through proper indicators, so as to avoid delays as far as possible. And I urge the government to manage the projects properly, so that we don't have a situation whereby only more units can be produced at the second half of the 10-year period. Mr. Starry LEE. Thank you, Madam Deputy. Transport and infrastructure is important in the development of a city. It is said that roads will lead to riches. And we want to create a future for Hong Kong, as mentioned in the policy address. We have to unite Hong Kong people and create a better future for Hong Kong, says the policy address. This is good, but the government is not efficient, and the people have been disappointed. In order to meet the needs of increasing population and other planning projects. For example, we had Cheung Kwan Old, and now we have the Northern Metropolis project. In planning for new towns, the government has not been able to go for advanced planning and implement the relevant policies in good time. Because of the time needed for consultation, and delays have been caused by various reasons, and the infrastructure is lagging behind. For example, in NT, Western NT is the population is $1.1 million, but we don't have any railway linking NT East with Island East. We need to have better northbound transport infrastructure because of the need to develop the Northern Metropolis. At present, our transport nodes are mostly in Kowloon. I think we should have a trunk road for NTEs. We should further expand the transport network for NTEs. For Cheung Kwan O residents, they have to rely on the Cheung Kwan O tunnel for traffic to the urban area is that when the new road is completed, the toll for Zhangguanlou Tunnel will be cancelled. Now there are more than 400,000 residents in Zhangguanlou. It's 90% of the planned total population. So serious traffic congestion will be caused. So why can't the government abolish the toll of Zhangguanlou Tunnel right away to avoid congestion? And also in Railway Development Strategy 2014, a new route for Diamond Route to NTEs has been planned, but there's no timetable. The East Kowloon extension line now exists only on paper. For East Kowloon and Mount Shan residents and Sha Tin residents, they are experiencing problems. If all vehicles from Taipo bound for Hong Kong, they will have to use the tunnels in Sha Tin, Ching Sha Tunnel, Tascan Tunnel, and Lion Rock Tunnel. So a T4 road was planned some years ago so that vehicles can go from Mount Shan without using the tunnels in Sha Tin. But the government consultants have not been able to find a good alignment for T4 road. So the government department should implement this project expeditiously. As I said, a road lead us to riches. We have been talking about integration into the GBA development and the 14th five-year plan. But if we don't have good transport, how can we do this? So I submit. Ms. Lillian Kwok, thank you. Under one country, two systems, the way to go is to integrate Hong Kong into the national development. The government should go for more publicity so that people understand the GBA development more. There will be more platforms, there should be briefing sessions and job fairs for GBA job opportunities, and there should be internship opportunities to attract young people to go to work in GBA. I propose that we should extend the GBA employment scheme for young people, and we should allow more people to join by lowering the thresholds so to attract professional people. And there should be mutual qualification recognition for the two places, so as not to impede the free flow of the talent and professional people. We should resolve the problem so that Hong Kong will be truly integrated into the national development, and our government has an indisputable role to play. That Hong Kong should help young people to seize the opportunity presented by the GBA development. So I submit. Mr. Lau Kok Fun. Thank you, Madam Deputy. I would like to mainly talk about the Northern Metropolis proposal. I criticized the government in the past that we have wasted the land in the North NT. And the government then mentioned a study on North NT. It's about Taku lands. The new towns for North NT would only include Ping Chair and Taku land. But although we talk about Metropolis, it was about some new towns. So that opportunity was lost. And people in DAB and I myself then proposed creating a new center, development center in North NT, and the government reacted positively, and the North NT the study was expanded in scope. It would now cover 300 hectares of land in North District and Yunnan, and there will be 7 connection points with Shamchan, and Hong Kong and NT North will become a center for innovation and technology, and more land will be developed for businesses and innovation. So we have this project. So we need to get a start. Any big project would require a timetable and a mechanism to implement the proposals.
That's why I've been emphasizing the importance that we will have to promote the overall development of the northern part of the new territories. We must have the coordination by the top tier of the government. And the policy address also said that to implement this effectively, the administration must strengthen its interdepartmental collaboration and supervision. We would also have to work closely with the Shenzhen city government. And the policy address also proposed that there should be more senior posts created in order to cope with the development needs of the Northern Metropolis. I fully agree. But then with regard to the revamping of the existing government bureaus and also the enactment of the relevant legislation and so on, I'm sure that will take some time. And even the CE election might have to be deferred given the current epidemic situation. And therefore, during the transitional period, the administration must set up a high-level steering committee which will come up with detailed implementation details. And then we should also complete the legislative and funding procedures so that we can start early with the development of the Northern Metropolis. Some planning work can start so that the new term of government will be able to start work more expeditiously. The construction or development of the Northern Metropolis must be done in a way with infrastructure being completed first because we have used railway as the backbone, and the Northern Link and also the Guangzhou West Railway, the current planning, design, and construction will have to be handed over to the new Transport Bureau. But then we have already gone through a lot of hurdles, and we don't want that to become the hurdles for developing more sites, and therefore the administration must consider splitting that up so that the division of labor can be better delineated between the relevant bureaus in order to avoid a repeat of history of the past. And I'm also concerned that in the future, we will have to streamline the development procedures so that we can relax the rules and regulations so that we'd be able to develop faster. The current development procedures are very cumbersome, and the administration has to do a lot of planning, and there has been a lack of coordination amongst different departments. Very often it will take up to 10 years for sites to be turned into mature sites, and therefore they will also have to go through the town planning procedures, and very often it would take 2 years for the representations to be made. And even if they manage to get the approval from the TPB, they would also have to deal with public objections and comments, and very often even without the consultation with this council and the district council, it would already take 6 to 7 years before anything is approved, and therefore we will have to streamline the approval procedures and the consultation procedures. Without doing away with the consultation, we will have to remove the duplicative procedures. Or we can also do several things in tandem in order to compress the executive or administrative and legislative procedures. For the public and private sectors applying to the TPB for planning approvals, the procedures can also be streamlined. instead of applying for certain things or certain sites to be included in the outline zoning plan under Section 12A of the Town Planning Ordinance, they will have to make an application for the amendment first, and then for government amendments and private amendments, I think those can be submitted to the TPB together for scrutiny. We could also consider borrowing from the Singaporean experience. We can zone certain sites white zones, and that would also ensure that when public and private sectors want to apply for the use of certain sites, the whole process can be streamlined, and that is necessary. And the Northern Metropolis will create more space for development, and the scope would be like developing a new town, and it would also have different functions and areas, and they are interlinked. And therefore, it's hard to say which part is more important. And therefore, I'm of the view that the administration must look into the existing arrangements on how the new towns can be defined. And also the compensation system or ex gratia payment can also be reviewed. That would expedite the development. And for the affected title owners, they would also be given appropriate compensation. The most important thing is, in the Northern Metropolis, if there is any resumption, then it must not be less than the current statutory amounts. Because of the time constraint, I'm not able to give you all the details concerning my proposal on streamlining the procedures. But then I've also done some projection. If the administration is bold enough in streamlining the current procedures by adopting my suggestions, then instead of taking 20 years to get anything done, we will be able to see some fruition in 7 years, and then completion can take place in 10 years. In other words, we can see the completed developments, the business, residential units, and roads, and so on, and then we can have the first batch of population intake very quickly. I'd now like to turn to some housing issues. In the 2017 policy address, the Chief Executive said that there would be 4 elements, one of which is home ownership. That is, for families who would like to buy their own homes, they should be able to realize their wish. And then public housing tenants should also have a chance to buy their own homes, because even if the units are small, it's still very much their own homes. And also they're using this the green form subsidy scheme as a replacement. Is not good enough, because for public housing tenants, they would still prefer the tenant purchase scheme. And the mixed management issue is also something that they will have to deal with. Sorry, your time is up. Members, as we are on Zoom, please note the timer. Everyone has 15 minutes. So once your time is up, I will have to ask you to stop. So please note that. Mr. Gary Zhang, thank you, Madam Deputy. As somebody from NT North, well, I've heard views about the Northern Metropolis. I'd like to share with you and look at this from 4 perspectives. And as somebody coming from that area, I'd like to share with you my views and also my suggestions on, well, transport, environment, youth development, and also land resumption. On land resumption, in paragraph 93, the Chief Executive emphasized that he would be reviewing green belts and also the Chotong area of the new territories, so that they can also develop more idle sites in the new territories. So much for that for now. But then we haven't seen how they're going to improve the situation, whereby residents or villagers are concerned about the land resumption ordinance and so on. In the past, when I looked at major infrastructure developments, there would be land resumption procedures. I was wondering already, how come in Hong Kong and Kowloon, well, even if the site is very remotely located or very populous, is often easy, but then in the new territories, they will be classified into different categories, and the ex gratia payment will differ. Now you're talking about NT North. in fact, is as precious as that in the urban area. How come? We will have to have different categories attracting different levels of extra payment. This is really an outdated standard or system affecting the Northern Metropolis development in the future. We should also not be saying that this is an illogical arrangement, because the administration will be taking the lead in developing land, and that has also caused unnecessary conflicts. Well, developing the Northern Metropolis is very important for Hong Kong, and therefore we will have to ensure a smooth implementation process, and we will have to take care of the interests of the residents in the new territories in order to enable them to share the fruit of success. The Northern Metropolis would also have to develop its transport system, in particular the railway system. Well, the current railway's capacity is questionable. Well, after updating the signaling system, they have already been able to increase the number of train services. And therefore, the administration should now ask the MTRCL to procure new trains, because it's not something that you can just get the delivery overnight, and therefore it will take some time before the delivery can be made. So it's important that they do so now, so that we can increase the level of services. Instead of having one train per 3 minutes, we can increase that so that we can have one every 2+ minutes. And that would also increase the capacity of the railway network. And also for the Northern Link, there has been some progress, and a new station will start works next year. But then I'm very concerned about the Tuen Ma line is already overloaded. And on top of that, we're going to have Hong Kiu Tuen Mun Terminal or Pier Station, and it's also going to be connected to Tianhai from Hong Kiu. That would mean that the line will be even more congested. So technically, there is not much room for further increasing the services, and therefore, for the Northern Link, we should look into the possibility of turning it into a north-south corridor in order to ease the pressure on the existing lines. The Northern Link will be extended to some of the development areas in NT North. I'm suggesting that at the same time, we can also extend it southwards to Tsuen Wan Lai King in Kowloon, so as to ease the load on Tuen Ma line, so that it will not be that overloaded. And the policy address also said that a new corridor will be built so that land and railway will be used as connecting Lantau waters. So it's going to be a cross-harbor railway, so that we can extend it northward. It can be connected to Hong Kiu, so that we can have a cross-metropolis railway. It can also be a cross-boundary railway. So Hong Kiu will also be the growth node for population. It's going to become a business residential area, and that would also expedite the development of the area in the long run. We would also be able to ease the problem of overloading the Tuen Ma line. And it can also be connected with different parts of Hong Kong, together with Tianhai and other areas. And also for the Ta Kwu landfill, it will also be developed. I hope that the administration will have to expedite the construction of iPark Phase 2, and also the consultation on iPark 3. Next, turning to youth issues, the development of the Northern Metropolis is to enable young people to go there, and therefore we will have to make best use of the land resources so that the young people will be able to have friends to grow up with them. These are my remarks. Thank you. Maggie Chen. Thank you, Madam Deputy. My remarks will be on how we can enable MSMEs to integrate into our country's development. Well, we say that we'd like to integrate into our country's development, and we will also have to tap into the support of the central authorities in developing our policies. Many SMEs have told me that they have not been able to find the access point so that they'll be able to take advantage of relevant policies in their developments. Very often they would have a lot of puzzles as to how they're supposed to do when they go to the GBA. They don't have a lot of resources to look at how they can enter the GBA market. And they can only rely on mutual help and exchanges in order to get hold of information. And that's far from desirable. And it's not able to highlight that the administration is able to play the role of facilitator and promoter. And therefore, I would suggest that for the ETOs on the mainland, they can play a better function so that they can also provide one-stop service by giving them information as well as support, so that they can also help these SMEs to develop their brands and in promoting the business environment for them. That would also enable the SMEs to integrate into our country's development. I suggest that Hong Kong's judiciary should also enhance the use of legal technology so that the efficiency of our court system can be enhanced instead of being able to hear a case after years of waiting. And there should also be online connection with our mainland court system so that there can be one-stop service in providing legal services and also dispute resolution online. These are my remarks. Thank you.
Dr. Simon Lee. Good morning, Deputy and colleagues. Since 2019, Hong Kong has survived multiple challenges, which takes a heavy economic toll to Hong Kong. In this period, we must plan for the future and prepare for the economic recovery post-COVID. Hong Kong economic imbalance and a consequent social issues is a common consensus, and it also restricted our future development. For the past decade, Hong Kong four-pillar industry, only financial services, managed to make improvements. The other industries are lagging. And in the area of new economy, the financial services are facing huge competition. For example, the mediation and decentralization. Well, for the wealth management and the credit and loan securitization will take away the intermediary and would change the ecosystem of Hong Kong being the intermediary. In order to move in with the times as to face the future with technology and to diversify our economy and add to economic vibrancy, while providing more development potential for everyone, is simply a common aspiration for all. On this, we need to brainstorm. First, Hong Kong capital markets is facing a huge opportunity. Financial industry is one of the core industries. Hong Kong, our future recovery and development is intertwined with the financial industry. Our capital markets need to reorient itself. And while is presented with a huge opportunity, our capital markets will become the preferred destination for China-listed company and foreign investors. And we will become the preferred destination of high-tech companies and the preferred destination for financing and IPOs. Since 2021, the Chinese concept stock listing in Hong Kong, and we become the hub for internet companies. In the past, the global investors can buy the best and the brightest tech companies on Nasdaq. In the future, and the investors can only buy this Chinese best and brightest company in Hong Kong. We need to grasp the implication and proactively prepare for this wave. And on decarbonization, and China is a world leader of renewable energy, aerospace, blockchain technology, and 5G companies that will bring more companies that are bigger than Tencent and Alibaba. First, we need to expand the applicability of 18A of listing rules, including renewable energy, aviation, advanced manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing companies to Hong Kong for listing. Two, freely leverage our uniqueness of capital markets to take forward to allow market connect schemes and turn the Hong Kong Stock Exchange to be a stock market for the high-tech companies on par with Nasdaq. Thirdly, we also need to adjust our governance mentality by being more proactive and well-defined policy guidance. The non-intervention and laissez-faire mentality has been held as the cornerstone of our prosperity. However, that was simply a product of its time and should not apply in the high-tech era and new economy. And for the trade and finance and real estate dominant era, non-intervention can inspire investor confidence and expectations. However, in the new economy, usually it's riskier, longer investment period, and require a pioneer sandbox. The bureaucrats will need to change in terms of the policy formulation and willing to grow the industries. The government should be more proactive in promoting certain industries and until keep the restraint on the macroeconomy. Currently, in terms of a nurturing industry, we need to play catch up, especially the relevant planning and concepts which are lagging behind the times. Take the Smart City Blueprint 2.0 for example. In the report, it was mentioned that the internet infrastructure and enhancing a public administration system, which including take forward the construction of 5G base station and chatbots, real-time information sharing, and cloud services to be applied on the government. And since the launch of Blueprint in 2020, we're simply falling behind. Beijing and Shenzhen municipal governments have executed the foresaid concepts. Take the blockchain industry, for example. Let's look at Singapore. Since 2017, had moved close to the time and launched a payment platform and modified the Securities and Futures Act and suggested a security industry omnibus bill and let the mark issue clear guidance for investors, which led to Singapore being the leader in the blockchain industry. We found that the Singapore neither make any breakthrough in offering subsidy on policy. For example, on the financial regulation on blockchain is just similar to other jurisdictions and do not offer any extra incentives for the blockchain operators. What it did is to respond to market demand while it's at a loss by issuing clear policy guidance and baseline and creating a favorable environment to promote its growth. Therefore, Hong Kong not require the government or the LegCo will need to change our policy. We just need to change our attitude, proactively respond to the market concerns, and issue a clear guidance on industry development. On this, we should study and learn from Mainland and Singapore on formulation of industry policy, enhance the Hong Kong's government's on the consultation process so that our policies will not be outdated, and we need to provide a more forward-thinking and visionary planning for the industries. What the government need to change is governance mentality. He could take an open mind to promote emerging industries. Hong Kong is a special administrative region of our country, and we could set up industrial parks and policy sandboxes for new demand and services. Well, ensuring it's compliant with the law, allowing more innovative policies and pilot schemes. And the government and the LegCo should closely monitor and respond rapidly. For those industry that are doing well, we should expand. For those risky, we should contain the risk in order to form positive interaction between regulation and industry growth. I so submit. Mr. Louis Long. Mr. Long, are you here? In this session, I would like to focus on land and housing supply. Before I start, I must declare I am the Secretary General of the Real Estate Developer Association, REDA. The policy addressed by the CE in Chapter 5 are talking about boosting housing supply. It was very exciting. It did not evade the elephant in the room and offered targeted solutions for this long-standing problem of land shortage, which I applaud. On paragraph 82, the CE claimed that she will personally lead to be in charge of the public housing supply. On private housing, she mentions that she will streamline development processes. This is very good news. The housing shortage stems from insufficient land supply. When we have a land shortage, there's nothing that the home builders can do. Land comes before the buildings. Hong Kong do not lack land. We have 1,100 square hectares. Well, the government is finally determined to take a multi-pronged approach to boost housing land supply. For example, unusual reclamation and a further review on the development potential of green belts and release the potential of Tongland in new territories and standard land premium rates to be extended on new territories land. These measures are very commendable. Most importantly, on paragraph 94, on streamlining procedures while moving with the times, that the process of developing land for housing construction involves various statutory and administrative procedures, quote, ranging from technical studies, planning, permissions, detailed design works, work settle, public objections handling, funding application, land resumption, rehousing and compensation, land formation, and provision of infrastructure, end quote. As you can see, there are many steps, and you can imagine the whole process is rather cumbersome. The CE claims that in order to expedite the supply of housing, she requests the Development Bureau to review existing procedures and asking for more thorough and comprehensive review of existing statutory procedures, administrative regions on town planning, environmental impact assessment, land resumption, and road works. These demands have been raised by the industry for many years, and now our wish have been fulfilled. I want to illustrate an example of why we need to streamline the procedures. Take the Kuching North New Town, for example. Well, the study on this was taken back in 1998. It was called the study on NT Northeast. And by 2021, we finally get to land formation and infrastructure works. And by 2023, before we can have the first population intake. Well, it took 25 years. Well, to be fair, for quite some time, let's say in 2003, this plans were shelved, and only in 2008, it was relaunched on the as Northeast New Territories New Development Area. However, till 2013, after a long wait, we managed that the study was completed and need to go through the town planning procedures. And well, fast forward to 2021, we finally managed to complete land formation. Why is it taking so long? As the urban planning process and the relevant studies are too numerous. As you may not know, for all those planning studies, there are 3 rounds of public consultation, and for each round it will take 1 year. After the consultation and with the findings of the planning study, we finally amend the outline zoning map, and then we have to be discussed by the town planning board. I hope the development bureau can compress the whole process. Which will be beneficial in shortening the time required. Besides streamlining processes, the different regulatory attitudes of different departments is another key factor. They see their function as a facilitator or a regulator. Well, to take forward these ambitious plans, the culture and the mentality of the vetting departments must be adjusted. Well, for the measures that were outlined are more for the medium term. Well, in terms of the quick wins, we'll be speeding up urban renewal. I'm glad that in policy address on paragraph 105 that the CE noticed this problem, while the URA has taken an innovative and district-based approach for Yau Ma Tei and Mong Kok, including the unprecedented of interchanging domestic and non-domestic plot ratio and streets consolidation. The CE mentioned that these new measures will also apply to private renewal projects. The URA is tasked to redevelop the urban areas. However, the URA itself cannot complete the task by itself. Therefore, there must be private sector participation. I hope the administration can implement this or roll out these measures in other urban areas. In terms of the Northern Metropolis strategy, I support it as well. I very much look forward in the not too distant future. I can see that the planning and the engineering study coming out. Finally, that everyone in Hong Kong is now in solidarity to combat the virus. In this context, everyone needs to do their own bit. There are frontline workers and those people who need to work at home.
係促請咧。
I would like to urge the Development Bureau to make suitable arrangements for civil servants working from home in this special time, so that when they work from home, they can really do their job, so that land development and housing development, which will involve important procedures, would not be impeded or come to a halt because they are working from home. President, I support the motion, so I submit. Ms. Chen Yue-ming. Before I start, I have to declare my interests. My family and I own land in the districts concerned. The Northern Metropolis concept is now proposed for the innovation and technology development, and it would be developed into a area suitable for business as well as residential development. And we will have a division of development theme for the north and the south of Hong Kong. Actually, we need to refine some of the development parameters. I am also a resident of Tak Koo Leung, and I'm a member of the Tak Koo Leung Rural Committee. I'm aware of various restraints. In the northeast of NT, we have the landfills. And there's also the Mega Columbarium project. And there's the slaughterhouse and the sewage treatment plant. And there's a phase 2 development of the northeast NT landfill. Environmental pollution and odor would directly affect Tak Koo Leung and more than 100,000 residents in Sam Chun. It's a source of conflict between Hong Kong and Sam Chun. And many people are suffering from the abundance of flies. If you don't have an insect repellent lamp and maze window, you will not be able to live in a comfortable environment. And there are the quarantine and inspection facilities, as well as the slaughterhouse there. They all stand in the way of the developing Northeast NT into a hospitable area for business. Such obnoxious facilities must be removed. Then it would not be possible to make this area an attractive area for businesses and residential development. So I propose that in order to make the Northern Metropolis attractive to businesses and residents, we should have a boundary crossing related developments. We should do away with the piecemeal development approach. We should make use of the potential presented by the boundary crossing facilities, promoting the flow of people and business. And we should have incubation programs for the boundary from boundary areas. we should attract more value-added industries to Tagulang. There are 3 crossing points, 1,000 hectares of land. Really, it's very suitable. It's a suitable area for new development, and we should streamline the customs clear and boundary clearance procedures to enhance the flow of people. And we should not allow conservation to override development. We should not make the loop area an isolated island. And we should implement the common prosperity principle. The traditional land resumption standards are no longer applicable. We should learn from the approach adopted by the mainland in developing rural land. For example, in Samjan, the stakeholders can enjoy the fruit. Your time is up, Ms. Chan. Dr. Dennis Lam. Thank you, Madam Deputy. The policy address proposes the strategy to develop the Northern District into a Northern Metropolis, which will be realized in 20 years, and there will be an international innovation center. Well, it's a very ambitious plan for the future of Hong Kong, but people are more concerned about how this can be realized, and they would like to enjoy the fruit of the development earlier. This is a test of the SAR government's ability to implement such a big project. It's proposed that there will be a deputy secretary, chief secretary, and a dedicated post will be created to steer the project. But if we do not change the mindset, then the high-level steer would not be effective. And because of bureaucratic bureaucracy, the many mega projects have been suffering from delays. So we have to make sure that the same fate would plague the Northern Metropolis project. I think we should have a new office set up for Northern Metropolis. And we should make good preparations for possible problems. And there should be a dedicated ordinance governing the development. And we should specify what part of that metropolis project will be private sector driven and what parts are not. And I have a few suggestions for how we can be integrated into the integrated into the national development. Hong Kong's medical service is of a high standard. We should do a part in internationalization and integration. I have to declare my interest. I have an eye hospital in Zhuhai. It's one of the first 5 such projects approved by the country. We should harmonize these service standards. And we should allow more drugs to be used in the GBA hospitals operated by Hong Kong people. And these hospitals should be allowed to use registered drugs. And the pharmaceutical companies can use the data collected by such hospitals. And they should be allowed to be registered without the need to go for the phase 3 clinical trial studies. And Hainan Island has already been doing this. The major international pharmaceutical companies are very interested in this approach. Hong Kong professionals are very skillful in carrying out the studies. if we can allow the drugs to be used in the mainland through this new approach, Hong Kong will become a hub and a gateway. We don't have an FDA. We have a committee to approve new drugs, but it will only consider drugs already used by 2 foreign countries. The committee would not be doing the vetting and approving by itself. I propose that we set up an independent FDA in Hong Kong to fill this vacuum, and then drugs approved in Hong Kong should be allowed for use in the mainland. If this is possible, Hong Kong will become a research base for drugs internationally. So I submit. Dr. Junius Ho. Dr. Ho, Madam Deputy, the third debate session has allowed for a very happy debate. I support the concept of this Northern Metropolis development in the policy address. I'm all for the quickening of development pace and shortening of the development time frame. The constraints that we are facing now should be addressed by our togetherness in the 7th term LegCo, because before we change the laws, we can streamline the procedure. All it takes is our determination, and the administration can exercise discretion as long as we are committed, and those who enjoy the power can amend the relevant guidelines so as to cut the red tape, and possible delays can be avoided. With regard to the Northern Metropolis, I understand the government would develop a land of 1,200 hectares in the coming 20 years. This is a bold step, but I would like the government to be even bolder and expand the size of the land to 2,500 hectares. To the east, all the way to Lin Tong, and the south to Matao Land, and to the north of Lai Kong Road and Po Sham Road. That would involve a land size of additional 25 hectares. We should talk to Sam Chan, and we should have an integrated plan by cooperating with Sam Chan. In 2006, MPC approved Hong Kong port area in Hong Kong, and also the co-location of facilities for the express rail. So we know that mainland laws can be applied in the Austin Road Express Rail Terminal, and Hong Kong law can be implemented in the border crossing areas, so that we can allow free access without the need for customs and immigration clearance. That would enhance the synergy between the Hong Kong and mainland businesses, and therefore this Northern Metropolis will be a new and high-level development, and we will set a very visionary foundation for the cooperation between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, so that we are part of Shenzhen and Shenzhen is part of Hong Kong. And when there's a need on the part of Hong Kong, central government would lend us the support we need. Whatever is beneficial to our future development and prosperity, we will be able to move forward boldly. There are precedent cases. So if we have a special area within the SAR, 40 to 50 hectares of size of land in size, I agree with Mr. Sun Dong. We should import the necessary resources to make it possible. Thank you.
Mr. Ma from Talk. Thank you, Madam Deputy. After reading the policy address in detail, I noticed that with regard to arts and culture, there's only one paragraph on new cultural landmarks. It shows that the administration has not been able to integrate arts and cultural development into our country's development. The 14th Five-Year Plan framework that was announced last year expressly supports that Hong Kong should develop into an arts and cultural center, and that has given us a new position, and the sector has been thrilled because that would mean tremendous opportunities. According to our understanding, the central authorities would like us to make use of our background as a place where the East meets the West, and we should also try to sell the soft power of our country. We can also develop our own infrastructure. In order to live up to that job and expectation, we must do something about it. Hong Kong is a metropolis, and we also have a cluster of city developments, and we are able to complement with the mainland, and therefore we are well positioned to do that job. And we have already come across this big change in a century, and therefore our country has never been that important before in the global scene, and therefore we have to seize the opportunity to discharge our duty as an ambassador for the heritage and culture and so on, and therefore we have to get the administration, the business sector, and also the arts and culture sector to collaborate together. The policy address should be commended in a sense that the administration has taken on board the views from both myself and the sector, and they responded proactively by revamping the government structure so that tourism and tourism will be grouped under one single bureau instead of scattering the business in different bureaus. Another credit is about the ETOs and also the mainland officers. They will also be given the task of promoting arts and culture. That's been something that I've been urging the administration to do for a long time, so that we can take advantage of the ETOs in 4 locations so that we can do further promotion on arts and culture, and they can also act as a bridge so that the sector can go out. We can also invite people to come over. And then other than promoting exchanges, we should also give them better support in funding so that we can have dedicated arts and cultural exchange funds, so that we can serve the local sector by giving them more financial support for such exchange activities. We can also sponsor and offer tax concessions for organizations or enterprises supporting arts and culture. Well, we would also be able to organize more events with the completion and commissioning of the West Kowloon Cultural District. But then the hardware would have to work with the software, and therefore to become an exchange center for East and West, we will also have to have the substance ourselves, and talents would be very important. The policy address talks about how we can nurture more talents. Strictly speaking, that's what's going on all the time, and there is nothing new. How can we retain talents? How can we train up talents? They are very important. With the onset of the epidemic, the sector is experiencing a lot of difficulties. For example, some of the venues have to be closed off, for several months, and therefore we will have to help the sector to cope with the situation, and the administration will have to come up with some clearer guidelines as to how they should operate, instead of just allowing them to wait in the dark. Madam Deputy, to enable the world to understand China better, the sector and the community must have a better understanding of Chinese culture before we can tell a good story. And therefore, education is very important. I'm of the view that Hong Kong's education must enhance students' understanding of the Chinese culture so that they will have the proper awareness, so that they can get the gene for promoting Chinese culture, and they should also have a sense of pride and a sense of belonging. We should also enhance their understanding of Chinese culture, and at the same time, we would also be able to train up talents for the sector. I believe that with our country's support, we will be able to integrate into the overall development of our country, and GPA is a good access point. We can take advantage of one country, two systems. We'll be able to put in new dynamism or momentum in the development. So long as we can work together, we'll be able to take up the task ourselves. Then Hong Kong will definitely become a place where we can integrate East and West. With these remarks, I support the motion. Mr. Chen Yong. Thank you, Madam Deputy. Well, actually, can you hear me? We cannot feel and can see that our bureau chiefs and the chief executives have been working very hard, and they've managed to get 21 hotels providing rooms, and the HAD would also be distributing rapid test kits, and they can also make appointments and so on, and more clinics would also be joining the video consultation scheme. I think that's good. The virus would not just give time to us to do our work, and therefore we should offer our support to the administration. And we are also in the fear of infection, and therefore we should all work hard. Other than trying to deal with the epidemic and also resolve the housing problem and also narrow the poverty gap, we have to do something about it. Well, the policy address talk about increasing the number of residential flats so that the waiting time can be shortened to 3 to 5 years. And they can also make a forecast as to when those flats would be available. I think that would help. And that would also help people make their plans, including getting married, having their own homes, and so on. I think we will have to relax all the rules and regulations so that people will be able to feel and really do something about it, so that they can really feel a sense of happiness. So we will have to work together to expedite the supply of housing and land. These are my remarks. Thank you. Colleagues, if you'd like to speak in the third session, please press the button to raise your hand. Yes, Mr. Nganman Yu. Thank you, Madam Deputy. Well, as someone from Kowloon East, I'd like to speak in this session. So I'd like to talk about transport infrastructure in Kowloon East. In the 2021 policy address, the administration proposes to build this airport island so that there would be unmanned transport network, and also the Northern Metropolis would also be established. So this is also to be connected by an extended rail network. It shows that the administration understands that the potential for development rests very much on railway connection, or else movement will be restricted, and how can people go there? Well, after the relocation of the airport, for a very long time, Kai Tak has been left idle until and unless the administration tries to introduce this energized Kowloon East, so that San Po Kong and Kowloon base industrial area can be developed in an integrated manner. That would also be turned into another CBD, and that would also provide momentum for development, and people would also have this hope that we can also complete the railway network for Kowloon East, but then this dream has not been realized, and we have also seen the downside before we can see the upside. For 10 years, the working population in Kowloon East has gone up. Just taking Kowloon East, Ngau Tau Kok, and Kwun Tong as an example, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people going there to work. And that has also boosted the commodity prices are there. In fact, many of the people do not work there, and then they are not able to share the economic success, and yet their income is low, and their daily expenses are going up, and therefore the poverty problem is also getting serious. And therefore the poverty rate has always been at the top of the entire city. And the administration has also repeatedly not lived up to its promises. For example, they said that energizing Kowloon East would be the crux for development, but then after 3 studies and 3 rounds of consultation, even despite the consensus and also the alignment and everything, and a lot of business operations would also be contingent upon the provision of the monorail, and also property prices have also reached new heights, and yet for residential developments and business buildings have also been completed. They are all waiting for the completion of the monorail, and yet all of a sudden the Development Bureau said that it's not going to go ahead with this, and then for the escalator system, lift system, and also electric buses and so on, will be used to replace the monorail. So how can they be mentioned in the same breath? In fact, Kowloon East is a very busy district. Traffic congestion has become very serious, and yet we have not been able to catch up with the actual demand. And the Kwun Tong line of the MTRCL has been nearing saturation for years. And yet people believe that if we want to have a breakthrough in Kowloon East, so that people will no longer have difficulty going downhill, then having one monorail and also a further development of the rail link would be the only solutions. And therefore, for the Kowloon line and also the monorail package should be integrated so that we can connect to Sha Chung SEL and also the Tuen Ma line and other railway next. We can also connect with Choi Wan, Po Tat, Lam Tin North, Cha Ko Ling, and so on, so that we can also be connected to the Kai Tak cruise terminal and so on. So on the one hand, that would also enhance the accessibility and connectivity between Kowloon East and these areas, and that would also provide better accessibility for residents living there, and that would also boost the synergy effect. Thank you. Stephen Ho. Madam Deputy, am I coming through? Yes, you can start. Well, thank you. I'm from the egg and fish sector. All along, we are very supportive of our state's development in the Greater Bay Area. In fact, a lot of the pointers are there. Well, we also talk about the Gui Shan Island plan in the past, so that we can also relocate our container terminal to Gui Shan Island, and that was also proposed by Mr. Ben Chen. And many years ago, the egg and fish sector also advocated that some of the egg and fish operations can also be relocated there, so that land in the urban area and the new territories can be vacated for other purposes. But then all along, the SAR government has never attached any importance to our suggestions. That's why, as far as lawmakers and other people's suggestions, the administration should give more importance to that, in particular after the improvement of the electoral system. For the deep-rooted problems in Hong Kong, I think the central authorities would very much like to see them resolved, in particular on land development. It's not just about using certain sites. Mr. Frankie Yik also said that we will have to make sure that we can decant the residents so that they can have a reprovision flat, so that they would not be displaced. Because for some of the middle class units or households, we don't want to see a lowering of living standard for them. And therefore, if you just try to use the agricultural sites, then you will have to make sure that they have somewhere to go. And therefore, we'd like to have economic zones first, so that we can have pilot schemes there. We've also talked about agriculture parks or even new industrial parks, and we also call those agriculture special zones. Can we adopt a somewhat different management scheme? We call that industry-based management rules and regulations, so that for fire safety, food safety, or even in terms of additional land rent, that could also be somewhat different in order to enhance the incentive for farmers, or else if they straitjacketed, then they would not dare invest, and the investment will be lagging behind. And therefore, other than developing such agricultural zones, we can also work and integrate with IT parks. Next is about management. With regard to management of the agriculture zone, in particular on land planning, the administration seems to think that they are just small-scale operators.
嘅。咁當然我
Or even like hawkers. I'm not criticizing hawkers, but they are highly mobile. However, fisheries and farming is a long-term business. However, if you simply subcontract to a large company or the government bodies to manage the agri-park, well, they will simply be chasing market demands and trends. Well, they actually, under the AFCD management, they tend to be slow in response. For example, the GBA opportunities could not be effectively captured. Well, for the various funds under AFCD management have been formed before the rollout of the GBA. Well, it's okay to have small repairs. Should the government consider what the government should come to the finance committee to make sure that the terms are compliant with the GBA rules. And that's all for me. In terms of the fish ponds, we have a new management plan that we discussed in Legislature. I hope that the government can respond to our sector concerns so that the fishermen's groups to conserve these fish ponds. I so submit. Dear members, if you would like to speak in the third session, please press the raise hand function of the Zoom now. Mr. Kennedy Wong. Thank you, Deputy. I'm glad that the policy address put the Northern Metropolis as the a project to connect to the Greater Bay Area and to integrate into the national economy. That will be a key strategic step to ensure the long-term prosperity of Hong Kong. However, reading from the policy address, the Northern Metropolis is more about hardware. The software, for example, how do we interface with the digital economy? Currently, this bit is left unsaid. Like I pointed in my previous remarks, the digital economy is just not about building smart cities, but actually a major direction for the major economy. For Hong Kong to stay competitive, we need to be thoroughly knowledgeable and catch up. The government should formulate the macro planning for digital economy so as to align with the national planning. We need to find our strategic positioning of our IT industry, and also we need to plan our hardware and software. As the member representing the import-export sector, I wonder if the government can set up a department dedicated promoting e-government, especially on cross-boundary e-commerce. The mainland e-commerce industry is growing rapidly. The KOL live and shopping and KOL promotion become a key driver of their economy. For many years, our e-commerce industry is facing lots of challenges. Our market is quite small, and the government never pay enough attention. And our sector are not too familiar with the technical specifications and applications of e-commerce. If government can set up a dedicated department to promote e-commerce, not only that all our industry can learn about the new media and change their mode of operations, our young people can apply their creativity to develop a new special industries. The government can become a connector by working with the TDC and the Chinese-owned companies to create a business matching and logistic and capital settlement of a large-scale e-commerce platform, so that the Hong Kong SMEs and startups can do business with the mainland. And we also managed to find a pathway for our young people. I so submit. Any other members would like to speak? Thank you. If no members wish to speak, I will invite the 6 public officers to speak. Financial Secretary.